Thank you.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Inside the Gamecocks show, JC Sherbert here with Phil Mullinax on Morning Monday. And we welcome in our friend, the man, Keith Allsep from the Locked on the Gamecocks podcast. Keith, just going to let you have at it. Tell us what you thought about Saturday in Fayetteville, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Well, I mean, JC, it's kind of the same road formula that we've seen from this team, quite frankly, since 2019, spanning two coaching staffs outside of an upset of number 3 Georgia and then obviously a win over Vanderbilt. This team does not get off to good starts on the road. And look, I'm not mad at Shane Beamer. I get that he is the spin doctor for all things Gamecock football, but it was only 7-3 at the end of the first quarter because of the number of possessions. Arkansas, the first 4 times they had the football. Okay, 13 plays, 63 yards, touchdown. 12 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. 12 plays, 61 yards, touchdown. 7 plays, 43 yards, they missed a field goal. Okay, to start the second half, yes, South Carolina shut Arkansas out in the third quarter. But does anybody remember that first third down when Clayton White sent the house and that 6'5" guy that never did anything at Georgia and then went to Toledo for a year and transferred to Arkansas, dropped a touchdown pass?
Mm-hmm.
Well, everybody wants to scream and moan at Marcus Satterfield, and certainly I'm still not a huge fan. You did put up over 400 yards of offense, and you scored 30 points, and quite frankly, you should have scored more. You had opportunities on deep balls. That was Spencer Rattler's calling card in 2020 at Oklahoma. Pro Football Focus, his deep ball numbers from 2020 are higher than any player in college football the last 3 years. He failed to connect. He threw an interception in the end zone. I have no idea what he was even thinking on that. And so I just don't think Arkansas has 2 5-star and 3 4-star offensive linemen up front. And South Carolina does have 2 5-star defensive linemen and 2 4-star defensive linemen up front. And JC, at some point, you have to want it more than the other guy, and you have to execute better than the other guys. And you don't need to wait to do it until you're down 21-9 or 35-16 to do it.
I'm right there with you. Kind of the same old story. I think that was, after looking at it, first and foremost, I think Arkansas is going to be really good this year. They could have a 10-11. Heck, they could win the SEC West if they beat Bama at home, which I think they could do. I mean,
I don't think they can because I don't think their defense is good enough.
That would be the challenge, I think, stopping Bama from going over the top and all that good stuff. But, heck, it's in Fayetteville, 7-point game last year. I think their offensive scheme just gives you so much trouble when you can't get them. Like when they were in third and more than 7, I know they converted a couple of those. But Carolina, I mean, you have a shot to get off the field then. If they're in third and less than 5, I mean, Kendall Briles has a buffet of plays and then options off of those plays if they get stopped. And then if all else fails, you got a 245-pound quarterback that can normally fall forward for 2 yards. That's crappy to stop. But I thought Arkansas's offensive line clearly got the best of South Carolina's D-line. I did think Zach Pickens played a pretty good game. Losing Boogie Huntley hurt, losing Strong hurt. I thought Burks played well at times, but let's be clear. Arkansas's offensive line totally kicked their butt, right?
I mean, JC, stats, piling up stats are for losers. Okay, to me, I can't even think of a single consequential play that Zach Pickens made. I mean, was there a huge stop where Zach Pickens made the play in the backfield? I mean, this was, and I hate to quote the ass clown from the upstate, but this was a bring your guts game, okay? And to me, the only guy that brought his guts on the South Carolina defense was an 18-year-old freshman wearing number 21.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
he didn't play like a freshman.
It's sad that you have 4th, 5th, and 6th year players, and a true freshman is basically the only one that brought his guts on defense because he laid the wood to KJ Jefferson. And quite frankly, that's the only time I remember KJ Jefferson getting stopped dead in his tracks was when Nick Eamon-Maury absolutely clocked him.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, do you think Appalachian State said, oh, my God, there's 106,000 people here in Kyle Field. We have no chance. We have to go on the road to play Texas A&M. I mean, we have no chance because Texas A&M is flooded with 4- and 5-star guys. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster than us. We can't win. No. They said, we don't care that we have to go on the road. We don't care that you got 106,000 people in there that do some really weird shit sometimes. We don't care that your roster is littered with 4- and 5-star players. We're just going to line up and do what we do and dare you to stop us. And until South Carolina gets that mentality on both sides of the football, they are not going to meet expectations.
Talking with Keith Allsep from the Locked on the Gamecocks podcast, and I agree with you there. I mean, it's same old, and it just you got blown off the ball. They were the more physical team. I mean, you can't win games in the SEC losing that matchup every single time. And I'm with you, Keith. I don't know that Arkansas's offense had a lot better players top to bottom. I think they have a very tough scheme to stop with the guys they have now because you sort of have a kind of a different freaky kind of player back there at quarterback. And then, with what they do, they are hard to stop. But I felt like, you wait until the third quarter to start playing ball. And look, the defense did show up for a short time. Got a big stop. And then the next thing you know, I think it was a negative 12-yard drive. Down 5 with the ball, offense goes backward. And then it's like down 5, needing to stop, and the defense gets shredded. And this keeps happening over and over and over again at key moments in football games.
I mean, look, Arkansas had not rushed for 295 yards in a game since 2016, and that was probably against the Acme School of Typewriter Maintenance. South Carolina's allowed 495 yards rushing in 2 football games. Rocket Sanders had a career high against South Carolina rushing the football on Saturday. All of these are alarming trends. And they just play completely different at home versus on the road. And I'm not apologizing for the fact that they need to figure something else out because it's not about the social media videos. It's not about the hype uniform things. It's not about above all else for your brother. It's about going out there. If you are fighting for your brother and your brother's not doing his job, you need to tell him. Where's the motivation? It's just and look, I love Sam Pittman. I love Arkansas. Everything you said is spot on, but they were minus their best 2 players in the secondary in Slusher and Catalon, who unfortunately suffered a season-ending injury against Cincinnati. And for South Carolina, you lost Mo Kaba probably for the year, Jordan Strong probably for the year. Well, so now you got Sherrod Green. Okay, how many games will he hold up? And so all this does is puts more pressure on your offense to deliver. And I mean, I'll just be honest. If Kendall Briles was on the South Carolina sideline, he would have hung half 100 on Arkansas's defense. South Carolina has the players on offense. At times, Marshawn Lloyd looked like the best player on the field. Juice Wells certainly was a absolute beast. Austin Stogner, after that first screen that he caught when he looked like he was running quicksand, when they had to kick the little field goal, he looked outstanding. And once again, Marcus Satterfield, Jaheim Bell, MIA in the passing game. And at this point, let's face it, every time Jaheim Bell lines up in the backfield, he's getting the ball. You know it. I know it. Phil knows it. And so does the opposing defensive coordinator and all 11 players on defense.
Mm-hmm. Talking with Keith Allsep, Locked on the Gamecocks podcast. So sometimes games can be deceiving. Obviously, if you watch college football this past weekend, we had an outstanding week 1 and then just an absolutely weird week 2. I still think weird things can happen. Gamecocks are 26-point underdogs against the Bulldogs this weekend, but they are at home. It should be a big crowd. It should be, a game that the players get up for. They, tend to get up for Georgia. Even last year's game, as poorly as it went, Carolina did come out and fight, at least for the first quarter. What can South Carolina do, I guess, to bounce back? You got this one, then you got 2 you should win before you hit the road yet again to another house of horrors in Kentucky. But, what can Carolina do to kind of go out and give the Bulldogs a ball game this weekend?
Well, I mean, you got to start fast. And to me, you got to coach better. I mean, as great as South Carolina special teams were against Georgia State, they were equally as poor at Arkansas. I mean, Kai Kroger, 3 punts for a 21-yard average and shanked the first one. I think it was like a 7-yarder. You had another bad snap on an extra point that cost the Gamecocks, that play, which they were constantly trying to catch up to. And then I thought that, quite frankly, there was questionable coaching decisions. I thought it was questionable to go for an onside kick with 6+ minutes to go when you're down by 11 points. I think you kick it deep and play defense. Arkansas was in, shutdown mode. They weren't going to put the ball up for grabs. They were going to line up and run it. And I thought the first 2 onside kicks were abysmal. I thought, Marshawn Lloyd, you got the ball in the fourth quarter after Arkansas has that long drive that spans the end of the third quarter, and then they score on the first play of the fourth quarter. He fumbles. Arkansas scores. You go back down the field in the red zone. Spencer Rattler threw one into a crowd. It reminded me of Allen Mitchell in 1983 against Clemson. He tried to throw the ball through about 3 or 4 Razorbacks. You can't have those kind of mistakes. South Carolina had no business when it was 12. They cut it back to 12. They had no business going for 2 to get it to 10 there. You keep it at 11 because then all you need is a touchdown. Yes, you have to hit the 2-point play and a field goal. Time and score situations. If you miss that, you don't have time for 2 touchdown drops. They have to coach better, they have to execute better, and they have to play better. But here's the good news, JC, is this is the most talented South Carolina offense we've seen since vintage Steve Spurrier. Look, I can't discount 2017 South Carolina when you had about 2 NFL running backs. First, Debo Samuel, Shi Smith, Brian Edwards. But you did have Kurt Roper. But you didn't have Spencer Rattler. I mean, no offense to Jake Bentley, who I thought, played well for most of that year. There are weapons all over the field. And quite frankly, none of them are Josh Vann. And Jalen Brooks, look how tough and physical he's playing. Look how well he's catching the ball. Juice Wells, Amarian Brown, the running backs. I mean, I have to hope, and maybe it's just fool's gold because we beat up on North Carolina, who, App State hung 61 on last week. And then, they were very fortunate to beat the Fighting Sean Elliott's in Atlanta this past weekend. But there are a lot of weapons, and you do have a big-time player at quarterback. And I think we just have to accept the fact, yes, we lost this swing game. This was one of the big swing games. But this should be a team that gets better as the season goes on and this group gels and develops their chemistry and identity as an offense. And you have to hope the defense starts showing up.
Definitely did show up on the road.
Yeah.
Next road game, of course, is not until October 8th at Kentucky. Some news, I think, and I've not confirmed this. It was a post on the message board. Chris Rodriguez, the running back for UK, will be back for Ole Miss October 1st, which means if he's healthy after that game, he'll play against the Gamecocks, which I don't think anybody felt like Chris Rodriguez wouldn't be playing against Carolina by the time he got there.
And no surprise there.
Yeah, big win for them.
So if we're talking about Kentucky, to me, that was the battle of the dead ass average Saturday night in the swamp.
The DAA.
The most overrated team in the country. Every time Florida has a win with a new coach, they automatically vault to the top. I mean, AR-15, the number 2 or 3 quarterback in America and the SEC, 14 for 35, 2 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown. And quite frankly, Justice Boone knocked the mayonnaise out of Will Levis.
Wow.
In that game. And all the people that think he's Josh Allen, I'm sorry, he's not. I mean, they're pretty good, but to me, that is still a very winnable game because, quite frankly, I don't think Florida has Juice Wells.
They don't.
No.
They don't. I mean, they
have Bell. I don't think they have Marshawn Lloyd, although I did like Etienne, the freshman running back. He looked nice.
That's Travis Etienne's brother.
Yeah.
I like, and I thought Lloyd's playing really well, playing really fast. I think the rushing yards from scrimmage will come at 7 catches, 72 yards this past weekend, including a 43-yarder on a screen pass. You can just kind of feel him getting better. But yeah, you're right, Keith. I didn't think either one of those teams on Saturday night were as explosive on offense as South Carolina.
I mean, I agree. I mean, and honestly, I wish Justice Boone was in a Gamecock uniform because they need him.
Especially now. Yeah.
I mean, based off my inside information, it could have happened.
Well,
they won Terrell Dawkins, who was the 5th defensive end. Now he's the 4th defensive end. And so we'll see.
I'll say, yeah. Well, people talk about good recruiting, bad recruiting, Keith. And some people think it's if you don't sign enough stars or whatever, you don't, you don't finish highly in the rankings. I've always bad recruiting is when you have an in-state player and you don't want him and he goes elsewhere and plays well. That's kind of that's kind of how I judge that. So those types of decisions are actually, I think, what you need to judge a staff on in recruiting. And they're not going to bat 1,000 on there. You're not always going to hit on everything. But that happens too many times, as we saw with the receivers under the previous regime during the Musk Champion era.
Jalen, 11 for the balls on Saturday.
Yeah, Hyatt and the kid from Virginia that got out of state. I mean, those are all kids that, when you look at the shape of the receiving core when the new staff got there, they obviously could have used. So that's the deal there. By the way, the university did release just now while we're sitting here talking, Kaba and Strawn out for the year, season-ending injuries, ACLs.
Man, I saw it on Mo Kaba on that play. He kind of got rolled up, and he went up in the air and came down and immediately grabbed for the knee. And he's South Carolina. I thought he's their best linebacker.
I agree.
Yeah. Right, because he had the ACL in high school. He missed his senior year. He came in during the shutdown with the COVID. I mean, that was mass chaos. Last year was really his first year of playing college football. And you just hate to see it for the young man because, and JC, you know this because you've talked to some of the same people I have from up there where he's from. This is absolutely a tremendous young man that's basically like an Eagle Scout. I mean, he is about doing everything the right way all the time. And he battled back from one injury and was primed to have a big year. And now, another season-ending injury. Got to be very disappointing.
Hated for him. Hated for Jordan Strong, too. Both those guys, by the way, could come back. It's not like their careers are over. I don't know what the call will be. I would think both would come back to South Carolina next season, but that's still a blow. I think, what you got to do, you got to hope Sherrod Green, like you said, Keith, holds up, and then I think get Stone Blanton ready to get in there and roll as the season progresses. I mean, I would expect Stone to probably start getting a lot of reps around Charlotte, SC State, those games to get him ready because it's like they're going to need him, to be in the rotation this year. Whereas had Kaba stayed healthy, maybe you bring him along a little more slowly. But you're going to need Stone Blanton. All right, Keith. Any further thoughts before we jump off here and get rolling on a Monday?
Yeah. So I mean, look, we all looked at the schedule. We all knew it was going to be difficult at Arkansas. Certainly Georgia will have to help South Carolina if South Carolina's going to pull off that upset. You look at it, and after the first 5 games, you're going to be 3-2. Okay, you get a chance to go out and try to execute against one of the top teams in America this week at home. Then you get 2 weeks and 2 games, which you should win to be able to build depth, to continue to build your chemistry, to establish your identity, and get ready to go to Lexington because those last 7 games, I mean, look, you do have 4-loss Jimbo, who is already now dropped one at home to App State. Okay, they're going on the road now. I mean, there are opportunities. I mean, if Pitt doesn't lose their quarterback, Tennessee probably gets an L.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Florida, I'm not convinced. And so there are games. I mean, Missouri, that's a game you got to win that game. You can't lose Missouri. But to me, the next swing game is at Kentucky. And so you got 3 games to get ready for that. And if you pull off the upset against Georgia, well, great. I mean, 2-1 to me was the best case scenario after three games. But it is a long season, although it'll be over before we know it.
Yeah.
There's still 10 games, but that means there's only 10 games left that are guaranteed. This is a talented football team, but they have got to get off to better starts on the road, and they really had no excuse to play as poorly as they did on defense on Saturday.
I agree. Very good talk. Good having you in on a Monday, Keith, to break things down. Get your
So hey, how was that Chicago Bears experience? Unbelievable ending to that game.
Yeah, I didn't go to the game. I went downtown though, right next to the stadium to wait for Mike. It was pouring down rain.
Yeah, like a flood.
It was like a flood, and everybody. That was a very bizarre game. I think it's kind of the any given Sunday philosophy, because I don't know the Bears are going to end up being as good as the Niners, but Bears defense played well, and it's there's a lot of passionate fans. We probably don't understand that being from the South, right?
Did they rush out of the bars into the streets to celebrate like they did in Boone? Because it was raining in Boone. And a friend of mine sent me a video of the main little square.
Yeah.
Bars and just thousands of students rushing out into the streets on Saturday afternoon after a win over 4-loss Jimbo.
4-loss Jimbo.
4-loss Jimbo.
Keith,
I think I saw a car getting flipped in Lexington, Kentucky this weekend too, Keith. I mean,
All right, man. Anybody in Appalachia, the hillbilly part of the South, you got to watch out for that. They're a little more refined in Knoxville about things like property damage, but they have a rock for them on spray paint. So they got like, oh, let's just do this, and then they won't flip over cars because they could just spray paint this rock. And
I think the burning of furniture is reserved for West Virginia, but some of those could be meth lab accidents.
Might be incidental.
We just cooking meth in there, and the couch blew up. And anyway, all right, good to end it on a funny note, Keith. You have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon, bud.
All right, guys, have a great rest of the week.
You too, Keith.
Keith Allsep from Locked on the Gamecocks podcast. I like having him on Mondays. I like that initial reaction.